Hello, sailors.
I'm one of your hosts, Roman Schroyer.
And I'm Izzy Jones, your other host.
Welcome to another edition of The Breaking Wave.
Okay, so we are joined today by Superintendent of Bellingham Public Schools, Dr. Baker. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, so we know that you are incredibly busy and we're so appreciative that you are spending some of our time with us. So how has your daily routine and workday been going during this quarantine time?
Well, my days usually start with Zoom, continue with Zoom through the morning, lunchtime Zooming, some afternoon Zooming, evening Zooming, and then a lot of email all in between that. So much like our students, a lot more sitting than I would like, but it's basically meeting to meeting to meeting and email to email all day, most days.
Yeah, sounds like you got a pretty busy schedule. Sounds like wouldn't really expect anything else, I guess, with the situation we're in. But also, so at Seahome, we have that amazing new campus, and unfortunately haven't really been able to spend a lot of time on there. But we also are aware that like the Bellingham Public Schools has a bunch of other projects going up. We heard you guys are getting like a new district office. I think there's like a new elementary school being built. Like, can you tell us anything about that?
Yeah, we do have a lot of great projects that are moving forward. We have at our elementary, we have Alderwood Elementary School that's being built right now and is planning to be open next year. We have Parkview Elementary that's being built right now. It'll be open in a year. We have Sunnyland Elementary that's being designed right now and it'll be a year afterwards. The new district office that's being designed right now, probably still a year and a half, 2 years till it opens up. We have fields that are being built at Bellingham and Squalicum that are finishing. Shuckson Middle School is getting a new secondary gym attached, and that's going up right now. So nobody's as big as Seahome was, but those communities are excited, and it will be fun when this pandemic ends. And then all of a sudden you all get to go back to your new facility. And for those kids and staff and families who go back to brand new buildings, it's gonna, when they left, it was the old building, and pretty soon it's just gonna flip to this beautiful new building. So those are some of the projects that we got going.
Yeah, that's super exciting. A lot of the new fields like over at Bellingham, they look super great. Look like they're coming along.
Yeah, you guys are now, you have the best facilities in the whole world. It's we spent so many years of like, oh, Seahome, when are we gonna get a new facility? And that's all done. We're complete.
Yeah. Very lucky.
So we know that our K-2 programs are back in school. Do you have any interesting stories to share with us from their world?
Yeah, and I'll just say right now we do have our kindergarten, our preschoolers, our first graders. We don't have our second graders quite yet. We're working on when we'd bring them back. We got a number of other programs. So one is you can feel that whenever we bring back a new group, the anxieties get pretty high, because for 9 months now, for the most part, we've been home. And then what's fun is that first day, the magic is all of a sudden the anxieties go down, and just being with people with all our safety protocols, just huge smiles, even though the smiles, might be behind a mask, you can still tell they're smiling. The one story I'd tell is when we brought our first graders back a week or so ago, we had already brought back our kindergartners. So our kindergartners and our preschoolers were the first ones back, and they had the run of the school. And they were able to learn all the safety protocols, how to do lunch, how to do recess. So when the first graders came back, it was the kindergartners who had this confidence and knew how to run it and taught the first graders, even though the first graders had been in their school last year. So it was just fun to see our littlest learners, who often don't, the kindergartners usually don't come till like 3 days after school starts. So they're the most nervous, but they knew their teachers, they knew kids through Zoom. And so the anxiety of kindergartens and first grade it was just an interesting dynamic. And it was fun to see our kindergartners in a leadership role.
That's great.
That's great.
All right. So obviously I know with numbers going up, it's going to be a little bit, but in terms of kids going back to school, what is the next group that would be going back, and how is that decision made?
Great question. Depending on what day it is, that answer changes a little bit in terms of who's back. As of today, for next week, when this is probably airing, we'll have some of our students coming back next week in that are in some of our life skills and bridges programs at the high school. So that's actually our next group. This week, we had some of our students at our middle schools that receive those services come back. We're hoping to get second grade back as the next large cohort, and I don't know the date yet for that, but that's the next group. We were contemplating how might we get middle school and high school kids back sooner, and we continue to brainstorm that. And then yesterday, we just had new guidance from the health department that says pause on secondary school age kids right now. Keep focusing on your youngest learners and kids that have some unique challenges. And as you know, we have internet cafes at our schools, so there's numbers of kids in our schools. But and in terms of how the decision is made, it's evolving. This is evolving. Back in March, the decision of schools was made by the governor. And then as we've evolved this fall, I've worked hard where I get input from all types of people. I get emails every day from folks, sharing their thoughts and hopes and concerns. I work closely with our labor leaders. I work closely with all of our principals, with our teachers, with our classified staff, and also look at what the research is showing and what schools that have been opened up around the world and country and state, what they've learned. So every day is kind of what's the newest thing, what might we tweak, and what are we ready for? And then at the end of the day, I think in many ways it comes down to me after I've taken all those different opinions and thoughts and input, and I have to use my best judgment to say we're ready for this next group. But it's after a lot of vetting by a lot of people to try to think at every angle, and what are we missing? And it's a pretty complex puzzle each time.
Yeah, of course, it doesn't sound like that'd be a very easy decision to make. But I guess regarding with high schoolers, so do you guys just like work your way up the ladder with age groups, just working up from kindergarten to first to second and then all the way up to 12th? Or how does the, I guess, which group comes next? How is that?
Yeah, that evolves a little bit. It has evolved. But so I think to start with, Roman, I think what you've said is one way that it has kind of worked. It's like start with your earliest learners and work up. The other lens, though, is some of our students who really really need that in-school person service. And so we've also done that. Like that's the internet cafe, that's some of our special programs.
Yeah,
so those things are happening at the same time. Another one is high school athletics, as you know, as it keeps evolving of how do we mitigate risk, but still have our high school students be able to come back outside. So we've been able to do that now for a few weeks. So that one didn't start at kindergarten and worked up, it went right to high school. So there's multiple lenses. So it's not as simple as just our youngest learners, other pieces, but there is that lens of right now you can assume that second grade is a logical next group. And when we can get them back, you can then think of third, fourth, and fifth. But there's also some districts that have done, and we were looking into this until the governor's, or not the governor, the health department's new guidance was what can we do to jumpstart middle school and high school? So some districts, their plans have been to bring back, say, sixth grade and ninth grade, and then slowly work up grade by grade. So maybe we're still only at third grade or fourth grade at elementary, but we could start middle school and high school. So that's something we've been considering because we'd love to get all our kids back, but we're just not able to do that yet. So, and the guidance keeps shifting on us.
Of course, just taking those baby steps, that's all we need.
Yeah.
All right, Marcus, you gotta.
Oh, yeah. I know this is a tough one to answer since there are so many unknowns. But what are your thoughts on how a vaccine might impact our ability to have a normal end to our 2020-2021 school year?
I will not know the answer to that, but I'm paying attention to it. I watched, just for example, I was watching Bill Gates last night being interviewed, and his thought was by the beginning of next school year, we should be back to much more of a normalcy. Just was listening to Dr. Fauci. So I don't know how the end of the year, I have more confidence at the beginning of the year. I'm hopeful is like we're all back in a more normal way. Whether that's going to mean June or May or April, as you hear about the plans for the vaccines. I mean, on a good note, we're hearing more and more vaccines, right? And going through the approval process. So that's promising, but the logistics of how they're going to get that out to everybody, everything I read now is they're going to start with healthcare professionals, our elderly, and the people that are most at risk. So to be able to get to a point where it trickles down to all our kids and staff, I don't know that it will be done by the end of this school year, but I'm more hopeful for the beginning of the following school year. And that's where that'd be my best thinking at the moment. And, check back in a month and we'll have more information and we'll keep adjusting and learning together. Thanks for asking that one.
All right. Well, I think that's all of the questions we have for you today. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to join us and visit with us. And also just thank you for all that you do for our community.
Thank you, Izzy. Thank you all. And for all of our students watching, I'm so proud of what you guys are doing and keeping one step at a time. And please keep being safe and making good decisions so that we can keep the numbers down and get students back sooner. So thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks, Roman. Thanks, Marcus. Bye, Izzy.
All right, guys, welcome to another edition. And just so you know, in case you haven't heard, it is a short week because of Thanksgiving. So just make sure you touch in with all of your teachers, make sure you know what's going on, what work you have to do. And Wednesday, the asynchronous day, is our last official school day for this week.
Yeah, that's awesome. Also, our library is hoping to get back some textbooks and novels that you were finished with. So if you could turn those in, that would be awesome, because I know if you're like me, it's super easy for them to just pile up in your room and, forget about them. But if you have a copy of Lord of the Flies, To Kill a Mockingbird, or Animal Farm, and you're done with it, please bring it back to the school ASAP.
Hey, when you find those books lying around your room, bring them on Tuesday and then pick up some fresh food and a special entree in a food box that can be picked up from 4 to 5:30 in the bus turnaround. Our food boxes are available for all families and have some great items. Pickups are on Tuesdays in November.
All right, guys, and also, despite it being a short week, the tutoring center is still open through Wednesday. There are tutors lined up for every subject if you need help with anything. So just make sure to contact Mrs. Brewster at amy.brewster@bellinghamschools.org, and she can help you out and get something signed up.
And juniors and seniors, we might still be in a virtual world, but our career counselor, Martha Zender, is working hard to connect us with college reps. So you can check out the calendar and Zoom links by getting on our C-Home website, or you can contact the career counselor, Martha Zender, at martha.zender@bellinghamschools.org.
You can also get information on how to get help with your FAFSA forms. Those are a pain, but you will be glad you took care of it when it's time to pay for college expenses.
For sure. All right, so finally, we have Sophia Naviaux, who is with our yearbook class, who's going to give us some information on yearbook and photo submissions.
Thank you guys for having me on here today. So Mariners, unfortunately, because of the new restrictions for COVID, we had to cancel our plans for having in-person school pictures. So instead, this year we are gonna have everybody self-submit their pictures to us so that we can still have an awesome book. So you should have all received an email from our principal, Ms. Cole, that has the links to each Microsoft form. And so the link is different based on what grade you're in. And that's where you can submit your name and the picture you want to use. So when you're taking in your picture, you want to have a couple things in mind. You want to try and make it look as much like a school picture as possible. Get from about your shoulders or your chest up, and it shouldn't be a full body picture. And try to be against a solid background, and make sure your picture's school appropriate. And we also can't have you using any props or any accessories that could be distracting. And the deadline for these pictures is December 9th, so you have until then. And if you are unable to submit a picture by then, we're gonna have to use your picture from last year, your school picture from last year. And then if you have any questions, you can email chomeyearbook@gmail.com.
Ooh, and then Sophia, what about seniors that have already submitted a senior photo? Is that gonna be different from that?
Yeah, seniors don't have to worry about this. This is just for juniors and sophomores and freshmen, because we're gonna use the senior pictures that were submitted in October.
Okay, fantastic. All right, well, I think that's everything we have to ask for you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Hey, Marcus, what's with the goldfish suit?
What goldfish suit? I don't see anything.
Oh, okay.
Well, bye guys. Thanks for watching the show.
Thanks for watching.